Mayor Allen, it is 6:30, so you may proceed with the meeting.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, at the special meeting of Council of the Township of Springwater, January 25, 2021, come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Good evening, Council. Good evening, people who are viewing. COVID-19 is preventing us from meeting in person, so we're virtually meeting. Council, residents and staff, council, people can watch the meeting live at the Township's website, www.springwater.ca, and watch the streaming live, or you can listen to the meeting by telephone during the meeting by calling 647-558-0588 and use the meeting ID 880-4201-1654 and the pound sign. This is available only during the meeting, and for those who are unable to do either of those and still want to see this meeting, you can see it by watching the video on the Township's YouTube channel, accessible through the website. Council, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interests this evening with what we were dealing with? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder to call the public meeting to order? Councillor Ma and Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. I'm just having some technical difficulty. If you could pause the meeting for just a moment.
Will do.
My apologies. It is figured out. You may continue.
Good. All right, we have a mover and seconder calling the public meeting to order. That this public meeting of council held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for application ZB 2020-015, First Elm Holding Inc. be called to order at 6:34 p.m. All those in favor? It is carried. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council, held in compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regard to a proposed amendment to the Township of Springwater zoning bylaw 5000 as amended. The first part of this meeting is to present the amendment, Following, the public will be given an opportunity to make an oral submission through the Zoom application. Any person wishing to make an oral application must have notified the township prior to 8:30 a.m. this morning and must have been added to the commenters list. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of a proposed zoning bylaw amendment does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the Township of Springwater before the proposed zoning bylaw amendments are passed, the local planning appeal tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. All comments or questions should be addressed through myself as chair. Oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker, as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the township's website. This evening, we are dealing with ZB 2020-015 by Brian Goodread on behalf of First Elm Holdings, Inc. at 2872 Old 2nd South. I will now call upon the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 18th day of December 2020 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 16 properties in the Township of Springwater within 240 meters of the area to which the proposed amendment would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also posted at the assessed property to which the proposed amendment applies at a location that was visible from Old 2nd South. The notice was also placed on the township's website.
And has the planning department received any correspondence in response to the notice of public meeting?
Correspondence has been received from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority in an email dated January 25th, 2021, which was emailed to council earlier this evening.
Thank you. I'll now call upon Brian Goodread of Goodread Planning Group to give a brief explanation of the purpose and effect of this proposal. Mr. Goodread? You're on mute to Mr. Goodread. If you'd unmute yourself, please. There we go.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Allen, members of council, staff and residents. My name is Brian Goodread and I'm a professional planner with the Goodread Planning Group in Barrie. And our firm represents First Elm Holding, Inc. in connection with applications for zoning bylaw amendment and land severance. I think what I'll do is I'm going to load my PowerPoint presentation now, and maybe you can advise me if you can see the presentation on your screen when I've done that.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, we can see the presentation. If you could make it full screen, is that possible, Mr. Goodread?
Okay,
Yeah, that's good. That's fine.
that should do it.
There.
Thank you very much. There are applications that are all applicable to 2872 Old 2nd Road South. This property is located within Midhurst. In terms of an application overview, the proposed development includes a zoning bylaw amendment, rezoning of a portion of the property from agricultural A to a residential exception R1XX zone. And the subject lands are located entirely within the settlement of Midhurst. A zoning rezoning is required to implement the policies of the Midhurst secondary plan, particularly the Midhurst village designation, to permit the development of the urban residential land uses that are being proposed. The proposed rezoning would restrict the permitted uses to single detached dwelling and non-residential land uses to a public use. The approval of the Committee of Adjustment for consent to land severance is also required to create the 5 residential lots. I would note as well that the proposed development is supported by a planning justification report prepared by the Goodread Planning Group, a functional servicing report prepared by Pearson Engineering Limited, and an environmental impact study prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, Inc. And these reports were all completed in 2020. The location plan slide shows the subject property bounded by a heavy red line. The property is part of Lot 18 Concession 2 of the former Township of Vespra and has a lot area of approximately 43.7 hectares. The subject land is within the settlement boundary of Midhurst, and the property fronts on Old Second Road South, which is a township road maintained year-round. In terms of the surrounding land uses, they are identified on this slide, and the surrounding land uses include rural and farm land uses and rural residential land uses on the neighboring properties. Now, I provided a site plan for the overall development, and it in terms of the overall site statistics, the lot area of the subject property is 43.7 hectares. The lot frontage for the existing property is 413.76 meters. The property is currently vacant, and the existing land uses are agricultural and environmental protection. In terms of the proposal is for 5 severed residential lots that range in size from 4469 meters squared to 5029 meters squared. And I might note that the retained parcel resulting from the severances will be 41.22 hectares. Now, the proposed method of servicing for these lots is to be individual well and septic systems, and access to the severed and retained parcels will be from Old Second Road South. In terms of the servicing itself, perhaps I could refer you to the right side of the page, and on that you can see a typical lot and how it would be serviced. The building envelope and driveway are shown out near Old Second Road. And you'll note that there is a septic tank that's identified, as well as the proposed well location. And we have a filter bed, sewage system, and mantle proposed for each of the severed lots. And I may also note that at the rear of the property, although not shown on this slide, there is an infiltration detention basin that's proposed at the rear of each severed parcel, for quality and quantity control of stormwater. You can get an idea of the lot layout for lots 1 through 5 and how the servicing is handled on each one of the lots from this slide as well. For the planning policy framework, in terms of provincial policies and plans, the applications for rezoning and consent must be consistent with the provincial policy statement and conform to the growth plan. The applications must also conform to both the County of Simcoe and Township of Springwater official plans. And I'd note with respect to the proposal that an amendment to the county and township official plans is not required for either the consent or rezoning applications. The consents and rezonings, in our opinion, are consistent with the PPS and are in conformity with the growth plan and the county and township official plans. And I would note as well that the planning justification report that was submitted with the applications does provide a detailed explanation of consistency and conformity of the proposal to provincial, county, and township planning policies, and it's there for your reference. This slide is an excerpt of County of Simcoe Official Plan Schedule 5.1, and I would note that the approximate location of the subject property is illustrated by a red circle on this schedule. In terms of the County of Simcoe official plan, the subject lands are designated as settlements on Schedule 5.1 of the official plan, and the county official plan directs population and employment growth to be focused on settlements. Residential land uses are permitted in their settlement designation, and the county official plan policies are supportive of lot creation by consent, subject to specific development criteria. The county also approved an allocation of 15 persons for the 5 proposed lots as part of the growth management review. And members of council will remember this is the part of the county's 20,000 population program that was applied in the Midhurst area. And no amendments to the county official plan are required to facilitate the proposed development. The Township of Springwater official plan slide illustrates Schedule A land use to the Midhurst secondary plan. The subject property is identified by a heavy red line. In terms of the Township of Springwater official plan, the proposed parcels are designated Midhurst Village and Environmental Protection 2, which is an overlay designation in the Midhurst secondary plan. The permitted uses in Midhurst Village include single detached dwellings, and no amendments to the township official plan are required to facilitate the proposed development. New residential lots are generally, according to township policy, to have a minimum lot area of minimum lot frontage of 30 meters and a minimum lot area of 2,000 meters squared. And building heights are generally not to exceed 3 stories or 10 meters. And based on our analysis contained in the planning justification report, it was our opinion that the proposed development conforms to the consent policies contained in 9.4.2 of the Midhurst secondary plan and section 28 of the Township of Springwater official plan, which addresses consents. This Township of Springwater zoning bylaw schedule illustrates the location of the subject property with a heavy red line, as you'll note, and you can see on the schedule the location of the agriculturally zoned portion of the site, as well as the portion that's zoned environmental protection. Within the Township of Springwater zoning bylaw 5000, the portion of the subject property to be severed is to be rezoned to residential exception R1XX, and a single detached dwelling is to be permitted use within that zone category. The proposed retained lands are to remain in the current agricultural zone and the environmental protection EP zone. So no zone changes are proposed on the retained parcel to result from the land severance. And the proposed severed lots will comply with all applicable zone regulations, including minimum lot area and frontage, minimum setbacks, maximum permitted lot coverage, minimum ground floor area, and maximum building height of the proposed R1XX zone. And this schedule is the proposed zoning bylaw amendment Schedule A. It is the area that is to be changed to accommodate the land severances is highlighted by a blue line. And these lands would be rezoned from agricultural A zone to residential exception R1XX zone. Now, wanted to go over the proposed exception provisions to the R1XX zone. Basically, the proposal is that the permitted uses in that zone would be restricted to a single detached dwelling and a public use in accordance with the general provision section of the bylaw. And it would prohibit all other non-residential uses within the R1XX. So this is for a single detached dwelling on each lot. And below on the table, you can see the R1XX zone standards that are contained in the proposed draft zoning bylaw amendment that is in the planning justification report. And in conclusion, it's our opinion as planners that the proposed consents and the residential exception R1XX zone implement the policies of the Midhurst Village designation of the Midhurst Secondary Plan, and it meets provincial policies and plans. The consents and rezoning conform to the county and township official plans, and the consents and rezoning are appropriate and will contribute to the optimal and best use of land in this location and represent good planning. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Goodread. I'll now call upon the moderator to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There are no commenters registered to make an oral submission in regards to this application.
Thank you. All right, I'll open it up to members of council for any questions or comments regarding this application. Councillor Hannah.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Goodread, can you go back to your Schedule A, please, sir?
Schedule A?
Yes, and your summary of conclusions. You had Schedule A up there. It shows a better diagram of the question I have. What, you went too far, right there. There you go. Nope.
Okay.
There, okay. The EP land, looking at the lots from the old second, from looking east to west, it looks like there's quite a slope from the roadway going towards that EP area, and it looks like that's a water course that's located there. You did mention, I believe, that there would be some kind of a retaining wall put up at the back of the properties where the houses will be built. Is that to stop any impact on this EP water course that's there?
The water course is actually fairly well removed from the, if I could, let's see here. The water course within the EP zone is actually fairly well removed from the lots, and the rear portion of those lots are shown in relation to the EP zone. And I know in your zoning bylaw, you have a provision that precludes buildings or structures or septic systems, or buildings or structures within 30 meters of the water course. And you have a provision in your bylaw, I think it's 327, that also restricts any septic system within 15 meters of a water course as well.
Follow on?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'll just continue if I may. That was part of my question. Would there be enough space there from what appears to be a fairly significant slope at the back of these lots for the septic to be in there and not impact on this water course? Being that we don't have a final report, is my understanding, yet from NVCA. So I think it's important for us as council to recognize when NVCA comes forward that this could be one of the considerations that we're going to have to address.
I believe, Councillor Hannah, the way the septics are shown there in front of the house, between the houses and the old Second South on slide 5.
Thank you, Mayor. I couldn't make that out. It's very faint on my computer. I couldn't make out where the septic was exactly, and I wanted to be sure I knew what we were talking about when NVCA comes forward with their final report. So thank you for explaining that.
Mr. Goodread, can you confirm that? And if you do, my question is, it looks like the garages are going to be in the main structures of the building, so I presume they're going to be more than bungalows. And how do the driveways work if that is going over part of the septic beds?
If I might, do members of council all have the Pearson engineering report?
We do not.
Okay. There is a detailed drawing of figure 4 that illustrates the buildings, the buildings and the septic systems, but they're shown in the presentation as well. So I think there's plenty of space there to accommodate those without encroaching on either the water course or the toe of slope, and toe of slope. And as a matter of fact, the zone boundary sort of shows that toe of slope is where the zone boundary is, that's represented on the zoning bylaw amendment. So this here, that is the sort of the surveyed toe of slope, or that's the identified toe of slope that was identified in the field by Paul Featherston of NVCA in 2008 as a field walk with azimuth. So that's where we got the line from. And there was a slope stability analysis done as well, which we provided to the Conservation Authority again today.
But if you go to slide 5 in your presentation, the site plan, titled Site Plan, am I correct in saying that in this rendition, the septic tanks are out in front between the houses and Old Second South? Is that correct? Is that what those?
No, the square at the front of the property is the building envelope. The little square in front of it is the driveway. Okay, can you see my cursor on your screens?
No. Oh, yes, can,
Okay.
yes.
That's the septic tank. That's the filter bed. That's the mantle. And there is also an infiltration trench that's at the back of the properties to capture stormwater for quantity and quality control. Those are illustrated very clearly on the engineering drawing set, but if you're looking at the engineering report and the drawings there, you'll see where the infiltration detention beds are located. And it's to capture everything before it leaves the site here for slow, clean discharge to the lands to the west.
Okay, so you were right, Councillor Hannah. I couldn't tell from the diagram which was the residence and which was the septic bed. So they are behind the house.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you clearing that up because I was confused as well. So just back to Mr. Goodread, if I can, sir. The retention, the water that's going to be retained at the base of the lot, that's the furthest westerly part of this current drawing you have up here. That water is going to be retained. Is that going to percolate into the ground, or what's the intention to with that water? Where's it going to run off to?
It's an infiltration detention area, and so that it would infiltrate into the ground is what's intended, and that it would be gradually discharged through a treatment train approach to ensure that what's coming out of that is clean water going to the west.
Well, I'm sure NVCA will come forward and try to explain that more, but I'm confused as to where that water is going to run to. And as you say, it's going to run off. If there's not a retention pond somewhere, it'll be running down into that EP area where it's environmentally protected, obviously. And the concern I had was that we're not going to be contaminating that water source.
Councillor Hannah, if in you following the meeting, if you look at figures 2, 3, and 4 to the Pearson Engineering report, you get a real clear picture of even the drainage and where the flow is supposed to go across the lot and from the detention infiltration trench that's proposed. So that
Thank
is
you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't see that in that report. If I had it in here, I missed it. So thank you. I'll follow up on that. And I guess if I may, Mayor, to Director Spagno, or I guess whoever wants to respond, as we know, there were population given to this area was 15. 5 homes, that's 3 persons per home. Just for clarity, we're not going to monitor how many people actually live in a home. There could be 4 in each home. That's going to be more than the 15, but I realize that's how it came out of the OMB or LPAT at the time, was to grant 15 population. And I thought I did read that it was only going to be 4 houses built initially and 1 lot was going to be retained. So if somebody could confirm that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Director Spagno?
Thank you, Marilyn. Through to Councillor Hannah. Councillor Hannah is correct. There isn't any people police out there monitoring this from the ministry to make sure that we only have 3 people per home. It's that statistic really, I mean, it's a target to hit, and it's a population that's applied by the ministry when we're talking about future growth and that sort of thing. So there won't be any limitation on the number of people that can live in the homes. It's just the end result is that the 3 people per unit just ended up being 5 people. The application as it sits is for 5 residential lots, the retained being the development lands that are farther over to the west. And that's just to confirm the comment as to what the applications pertain to. In addition to this zoning bylaw amendment, I'd like to take the opportunity as well just to indicate that a development agreement will be required to take a look at some of the items that we're discussing or that council's raising tonight with respect to the septic location, with respect to drainage, with respect to access points. Typically that's done as a condition of approval. Once or if, subject to council's approval, when the item is considered by the Committee of Adjustment. So this isn't the last stop per se. It's really to deal with the land use classifications, and then the technical considerations will be looked at through the development agreement process and through the consents that have already been applied for and have been held in abeyance for, I want to say, 10 years now.
Well, thank you, Director Spagno. If I may, that other lands that are on the other side of the EP area, is it possible they could be developed in the future? And if so, how would you get access to those?
Director Spagno?
Thank you, Marilyn, through you to Councillor Hannah. Those applications are still pending. So I don't say, a matter of if. They are in process, and those lands would have to be considered at some point, as I understand it, when population allocation is made available for them to move forward. They would also be subject to the same planning tests and the same consideration as the other subdivisions located within Midhurst. And I would have to refer, with your indulgence, Mayor Allen, the question about the access point over to Mr. Goodread.
Mr. Goodread?
Yes, the retained parcel, just looking for my site plan here. The retained parcel would have frontage on Old Second South. So there would be the possibility of access to the north of the severed parcels. The potential of it.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you, just to confirm then, with the population allocation being set per 3 per residence, does that mean that there cannot be the existing driveway that comes out across from the farm right across from it? So there cannot be a dwelling built on the existing land, or is that 15 for the new portion and there's a separate allocation for the retained portion?
Mr. Goodread.
Yes. I would say that for the retained parcel, a single detached dwelling is permitted, one single detached dwelling on the retained parcel. I think to clarify one thing, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, it would be necessary for the county to do a full municipal comprehensive review as part of an official plan update to look at where the population, where the 2041 to 2051 population should be allocated across the county. And, it would be necessarily as well for local municipalities having been given an allocate or being given population or a portion of the population, I believe, to go through a planning exercise to decide where that population might go within their community. And so that's a way down the road. I shouldn't say way down the road. That's down the road, subject to a municipal comprehensive review, changes to the county and changes to the township official plans, if I could represent it that way.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm still a bit confused on the where over and above the 5 lots the allocated piece is, allocated part that doesn't have a planned single detached unit on it.
The retained parcel is vacant, so there's no structural development on the retained parcel. And the existing zoning on that property does allow an agricultural use. It would allow a single detached dwelling, for example, associated with a farm.
Okay. Did you count, Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Sorry, and that's the question that I had to stem from that. So there, as this is being developed, or should this be developed, there's really nothing to stop a 6th dwelling from being, I guess, built as part of it. It would be a separate portion, but there's already that existing, I'll call it driveway, but that's there with no residential dwelling there. So that's just the clarification that I was looking forward to, which I'm sure will come forward in the staff report in the future.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. So if you could take your presentation off, please, Mr. Goodread. Yep. 1 second here. All right, directions following the public meeting. May I have a mover and seconder to receive the direction following the public meeting? Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There is the motion to adjourn the public meeting
Oh, sorry.
portion.
Yes, that was, yeah. Mover and seconder to adjourn the public meeting, please. Deputy Mayor Coughlin, Councillor Cabral, that this public meeting of council held under Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 P13 is amended for the application by First Elm Holding Inc. ZB 220-015 does now adjourn at 7:10 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Now for the direction. Thank you. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Ma and Councillor Moore. That the council, having held a public meeting in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended on application by First Elm Holding Inc., ZB 220-015, having noted correspondence and input received, direct that the application be referred back to staff. All those in favor? That is carried. And the confirmatory bylaw, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hannah, Councillor Cabral, that the bylaw 2021-008 to confirm and adopt proceedings of council at the special meeting held on January 25th, 2021, listed herein, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? Carried. And a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Moore, Councillor Ma Chapman, that the special meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:11 p.m. to meet again in a regular meeting on February 3rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Goodread. Maybe he's signed off. Thank you. Good night.
Let's find this one.